أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إلى حضرة النبي المصطفى سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وعلى آله وأصحابه وأزواجه وذرياته وأهل البيت أجمعين ثم لمشايخنا والمعلمين أجمعين وخاصة مصنف الكتاب الشيخ أبو سعيد الخراز رحمه الله تعالى عنه وثم لسائر الأرواح المسلمين المسلمات المؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم والأموات شأن الله لهم الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا حامدين حمدا شاكرين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم ولعظيم سلطانك اللهم فصل وسلم وبارك وكرم على سيدنا محمد بن عبد الله صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأحوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات وتبلغنا بأقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات وصل وسلم تسليما كثيرا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم ارزقنا يا رب فهم النبيين وحفظ المرسلين وإلهام الملائكة المقربين في عافية يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اهدنا بهداك واجعلنا ممن يسرع في رضاك ولا تولنا وليا سواك ولا تجعلنا ممن خالف أمرك وعصاك وحسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. رب زدنا علما وارزقنا فهما يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم يا فتاح يا عليم. افتح قلوبنا فتوح العارفين بك نستعين يا فتاح يا عليم يا خبير يا نور يا هادي يا مبين آمنا بالله وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العلم الحكيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. ما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته ومساء الخير. Alhamdulillah, welcome back our good brothers and sisters to another continuation of the reading of Kitab al-Sidq, uh, that we will be probably feeling by now the gravity of the kitab, the seriousness of the discussion in this book of Al-Sidq, and it is very appropriate as how we would should have expected, assumed, and anticipated that a book that carries such a title and the aspiration of trying to be someone who is truthful is not for the faint of heart, for the novice of mind and experience, to try to attempt, but for one who is serious enough to commit in self-purification, to strive in a way of Allah spiritually, and to attain what heedless people wouldn't assume to be amongst the important things in life, which is apart from the ikhlas, it is to be truthful and to prove our worth to Allah as His slave. Ma'ashar muslimin wa zumratal mu'minin rahimakumullah. Last week we talked about the truthfulness in abstinence, which is a zuhud, and we stopped at discussing about this world. Shaykh Abu Sa'id al-Kharraz, we read from his book, talked about the different perspective of the world as being seen through the revelation of the Quran, as being narrated from the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for the next 2 to 3 minutes, we're just going to go through quickly what we have gone through, and just as a form of induction before we can actually continue and get the momentum of it. Yeah. Ma'ashar muslimin zumratan rahimakumullah. We learned that this world is not a place of joy that will bring about benefit to our life, two lives, the temporary life and the perpetual life. No, but it is a form of la'ibun, lahwun, zina, wa tafakhur, which is it is just a form of sport. It's a form of play. It's a form of what they call that, things that you take pride in its beauty, as well as well as something that you boast around and take pride with this ownership. And Allah Azza wa Jalla also mentioned that by right, a person who has much an understanding of the religion, pondered upon the words of Allah, understood the position of this world in Allah's sight, would feel ashamed to actually participate in hoarding, in amassing, in competing for this world. We talked also about how this world will be a form of mere enjoyment, to a point whereby one would feel that this world is truly a sport, and because it's temporary and because we're going to live once, that one would need to be all out, to enjoy to its fullest. How to enjoy? Through the love and the lust for women, to children, to hoarding of gold and silver. The horses of mark in our cases will be the transportation, and many forms of enjoyment in this life, and we are feeding into two things. Number one will be the hawa, and number two will be the nafs. And we take delight, we take pleasure upon whatever that we have amasses and attain and own, even though at that point of time that we realize that we have gotten distracted from the reality of this world. And we talk about how abstinence has got of a different degree, and we spoke of two last week. The first one being the first degree of abstinence is the abstinence following the desire of the soul. That's the first one. And in talking about the soul, as we have mentioned last week, we are referring to the nafs. Down here, when it is be translated as soul, it is nafs. It's not supposed to be understood as ruh, but it's understood as nafs. And we say that that's the first degree of abstinence that understood by many, whereby the soul, al-ammaratu bisu, that inspire evilness, that brings the lowly aspiration of the nerves, need to be negated, to a point whereby it is being mentioned by Sheikh Ahmad, Sheikh Abu Sa'id al-Kharraz. They are assigned to it. These are the kind of people who doesn't care anymore the state he might be in, because he totally abandoned his nerves. And he's 100% in agreement, conformable with Allah's decree. Down here, they put Allah's desire, even though there are some of the mashayikh, they are a little bit sensitive in using the word Allah's desire, because the desire is akin to be translated from the word nafs. Right? Or hawa. So we just put Allah's irada, Allah's will, Allah's wantings. And so he said that 100% in agreement to whatever that Allah has decreed to him, and he's in a state of continuous opposing his own soul and prevent it from attaining its desire. Be it in matters of permissible, be it in matters of impermissible, be it in materialistic sense, or even in companionship. We talk about how the Mashaykh even come to a point, which is important for us to take note, which is not to be in a company of those who impose negativity upon us, who has a bad influence in terms of from religious perspective. Al-Quran mentioned to us, Kunu ma'as sadiqin, be together with those who are truthful, be together with those who are in a straight path. We seek Allah's guidance for that. We say that Sirat al-ladina an'amta alayhim, guide me to the path of those that you, O Allah, has bestowed upon them ni'mah, not the path of those who are straight, and not the path of those who are misled. So we know we are supposed to stay away from them. But in terms of zuhud, in terms of abstinence, we have to take extra care. It's not only to stay away from the fasiqun, zalimun, mudhnibun, it's not only to stay away from all these kind of people who transgressed the instruction command of Allah, but to befriend and be in company of those who aspire as how our nafs aspire is by itself is already deplorable. Number two, we talked about the second one, whereby the second degree of abstinence, probably one could actually strive. If the first one not to the fullest, one should continue to try to strive to the best of one's ability. Number two would be matters of intake of provision in terms of food, in terms of clothing, anything that's in the form of provisional needs, and a person who exercises abstinence will take only bare necessity of food. And the word over here will be bare. And this is the huge word over here. We're gonna talk about that. What is meant as necessity? Is it similar to a person who feeds himself only to understand the word bare necessity? Is it similar for him as to opposed to another person who's feeding more than one mouth in a house, for example, living with a family, having your spouse and their children, probably with parents staying along together with them? Is it okay? Is it fair to equate, such a necessity as such that what are the differences in the yardstick of measurement? Should there be differences in the first place? Or should we just put a blanket generalization and say that this is how zuhud should be done? If we are supposed to be wearing the muraqqa, means the patch clothes, everybody needs to be wearing patch clothes. And if you are not wearing such a cloak, then you're not practicing abstinence. Everybody needs to be cycling, and if, let's say you have a bike or you have a car, you're not practicing abstinence. Everybody need to be begging. And if, let's say, you have a 5-6 figure salary, then you are not practicing abstinence. So the term necessity becomes very important over here. And for a start, we start to understand that it is understood here that the basic necessity, is referred to matters that is not important, matters that are important for his existential needs, but anything beyond that causes the longing of the heart to have, to want, but not to need, is forgone, is ignored. As to what do you call that? So we talked about this last week, and we talked about how that becomes important because of how the world by itself, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that it is ad-dunya khadratun halwatun, that the world by itself, it is sweet, it is pleasant, it is just fresh, that by the sight of it, if not because of iman, if not because of the commitment that we have resolved ourselves to strive in a way of spirituality to attain Allah's rida and acceptance, we would easily, succumb to the call of the dunya. And the ulama, teaches there's a way, to go through about it, and then we've been taught over here by Shabu, what do you call that? Shabu Sa'al al-Kharraz, amongst the way is to be cautious, to exercise wara. Just to add over here, wara. Number two is to shorten the hope. The hope over here, what is being known as tulul amal, long ambition, to aspire things, that is not affecting your immediate life, and the more you can shorten that hope, for example, preparing for 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, so on and so forth. There are people who are actually planning, what do you call that, when they would wish to retire, how they want to retire, where they want to retire. And when we speak to such a person, we'll be quite surprised that they're young people. They're young people because they believe in the concept of preparing ahead. And they assume that they need the time, that stretch of time, and to put in that effort to materialize whatever that they aspire. And they forget that Allah is the one who is the bestower. They assume that they're the one who actually work for it. And we're going to talk about that in the upcoming chapter, the chapter that talks about tawakkul or trust, which is a very important. And this tawakkul and this zuhud comes what you call together. It's a companion. One cannot work without the other. I'm going to come about that, inshallah. Number 3, to continuously think of death. To continuously think of death, it doesn't mean to a point that it paralyzes us. To a point that we cannot move, we cannot make a decision, we cannot strive, we cannot put in effort, we cannot work. No. To think about death means a person expect that accountability is real. Please excuse our handwriting if it's incorrigible. If you cannot read, then please forgive us. So accountability will be real. That's number 1, because only through death one would receive reward or punishment for one's action. So if you don't believe in accountability, then there's nothing will ground you, and you will never have a second thought in doing anything in your life, being good or bad, to ignore or to execute your responsibility, to inflict hurt or pain to others, and those are wrong. But through death, one thinks about accountability, hisab, and one start to think twice and make self-reflection and whatnot. That's the first one. Number 2, expectation of death allows ones to tilt the balance between dunya and akhirah more towards the akhirah. So the priority of akhirah is given. The priority. Akhirah. Now, the hereafter. I mean, like, if not because of death, one will assume, everybody would assume that they will be living on this earth forever. Hence, if a person comes with a spiritual notion, offering, one will not be able to accept it, because there is no counter opposed to whatever that they're having right now. And that counter opposed need to be something of more important. Okay, now that we are thinking of death, then we start to say that, okay, it becomes important. But that is not enough too, because there won't be any inertia to push that person to work for akhirah. So Allah tilt that priority balance towards akhirah by presenting to us that the world is temporary, but akhirah is perpetual. Just by having another set of life, is not enough to make a person think twice and tilt the priority balance. But with that second life, and the second life will be perpetual, it causes a person to step back. And next will be, then Allah, presented all the ni'mah. One is promised, what do you call that? And the heart starts to long for it. That good hope. You call this, how do I look at it? You call this in Arabic raja. Raja means hope. So one starts to have this raja in them, and hope of whatever that they have prepared for that long journey of akhirah will be worthwhile. We just read today, this evening, of the incidents of how Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajha, on his last few moments, he was being stabbed, and it was being mentioned that such a wound, the open wound was such huge and big, that after he was being stabbed, he asked to be, brought up to sit down straight, and he asked for some milk, and he drank, and the milk literally, gushes out from the open wound. Probably there was an open wound at his stomach, that whatever comes in, together with all the blood, that fresh milk just gushes out too. And he cried. And then people around him, they are trying to console him, and then you're a Sahaba, you're the beloved, you are the amongst the guided, you know. And then why are you crying, oh, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin? And he replied that he is fearful because he may not have prepared. He may not have prepared his provision well for that long journey in Akhirah. That for every stop that he has got to make in Akhirah, it's not going to be as short as how the world would be. You see your understanding. If let's say you have registered for this class, then please sign in with your registered name, as opposed to what you call that, your company name or whatnot. Thank you very much. So he was crying just because of that he is not prepared, that he's not ready, for that long journey. So even sometimes when a person claims that I long for akhirah, sometimes the question would be, how about the readiness? How about readiness? Longing, how about readiness? Just like if a person is being asked, do you love Allah? And if you claim, I love Allah, then how about compliance? The matter of compliance. Are you complying well with instruction? Are you following to the T's of the instruction? If someone is asking, do you love the Prophet? And we claim that, yes, we love the Prophet. But how about, what do you call that? The ittiba, the fellowship of the Sunnah. Have you been doing so? So it is not just proclaiming the longing, one's longing for akhirah, one's mahabbah, love for Allah and His Prophet, but it's beyond that. Yeah. Right. So today we're going to continue. Ma'ashar Muslimin, Zumrat al-Mu'min rahimakumullah. After understanding about all this world, let's start now to give a definition as how Shaykh Abu Sa'id al-Kharras is guiding us through this kitab. From the word of Imam Sufyan al-Thawri, conquered by Waqi ibn al-Jarrah, Imam Waqi, one of Imam al-Shafi'i's teacher, and he was being, after his demise, he's been buried close to his teacher. If let's say you visit in Masr, then you'll find right now his maqam is a big, huge and beautiful masjid built over it, and along that stretch will be the the maqam of his teacher. So Waqi ibn al-Jarrah, and also Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal and many others, they conquered and they have explained this thing, a first definition of abstinence that we need to take note, which is abstinence in this world is the shortening of hope. Abstinence in this world is the shortening of hope over here. And this proves what the philosophers have said. When a man restricts his hope, he takes no pleasure. And so heedless is far removed from him. This will be the result of shortening of hope. When we say shortening of hope over here, we are actually referring to shortening of hope of worldly matters. Worldly matters. Not shortening of hope of akhirah, but shortening of hope of worldly matters. There are several degrees. There are long, there are permissible medium, there are short, and there are immediate, and there's none. These are all the span of hope. The long span of hope is one that is beyond what is being shown in Sunnah. So what is being shown in Sunnah is the one that goes in a medium. What is in a medium is this, two things to take note. Number one is what mentioned in the Quran. For example, Sayyidina Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam, the Prophet, he prepared for the day that is to come, which is 7 days whereby the crops can be harvested well, 7 years of crops growing well, 7 years of drought, so on and so forth. So he's preparing for that range, and that range is permissible. It is mentioned in the Quran because anticipated, because it's anticipated. That's why there are some people who ask the question, Sidi, if let's say we're talking about zuhud, we're talking about abstinence, we fear about hoarding, but here I am trying to buy my BTO, then are you trying to say that I should not save? Because later we're going to come to the point of talking about to what degree and extent that we'll be saving. We just discuss it right now so that we can clear it off, by the time that we reach to that paragraph. Or number two, CD, we have a children, and as studying in Singapore is not cheap. Even to be a citizen in Singapore is not cheap. Let's say if you don't get any bursaries, if you don't get any tuition, or what do you call that, fees assistance, and whatnot, it can be a big chunk eaten from one's what they call saving, quote unquote. So should I or should I not prepare for it? Then we say that yes, why not? Because why? It is an anticipated what do you call that, goal. You have registered for your Hajj. You have gotten your queue number, and they advise you on when roughly you will get, probably in 10 years time, let's say. So you anticipated it over next 10 years. So you begin your saving right now, all the way until the anticipated date, which is whatever that's supposed to be decreed 10 years later. Is it okay? It's fine. So because it's anticipated, as how being shown by the Quran. Number one. Number two, as how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, shown us in matters that not anticipated, matters that you can't anticipate, but it is based upon one's degree of faith, the level of faith. This how Rasulullah would then provide provision in some of the houses of his wives, a year's worth of provision in the house. So if you're talking about wheat, flour, kitchen needs, food, and whatever not, that will be like, okay, you have one whole year of it, right? So that will be the medium. That will be the medium. Anything lesser than the medium, then it would be like 6 months. Anything lesser would be like 6 months. As how we have learned in fiqh, in fiqh of Madhab al-Shafi'i, it is also explained in Fathul Qarib that it is the right of a wife to seek from her husband the nafqah of clothing every 6 months. Every 6 months. And if her clothing is still good and fine, she may not want to ask, and that's her prerogative. Or the clothing is still okay, but she demands to have a new one because she wants to give away the old one to someone else. It's her right. And it's the husband who needs to prepare that in 6 months' time, I need to get something for my wife. This is an example given in fiqh. Of course, when we put in a current context, it will start to be different, especially to the way the life that we're living or whatever not. But the gist will be the same. We men need to provide the clothing for the wife. Okay, type ala kulli hal, 6 months. So it is from the anticipated many years to what would be 1 year to now will be 6 months. So this will be all in a range of medium. We have the range of what we call long. So when we say long, it will be what? Beyond that, whatever unanticipated matter. For example, we are preparing for our retirement. And my retirement, I anticipate that I need to earn or spend or have at least a monthly wealth of, say, 4,000, 5,000. So 5,000 per month, and you start to calculate how long from that time of your retirement age to your anticipated year of death, and then you start to accumulate, and you backlogged it, you calculated backwards to the current time. So you said, hence I need to make such and such amount of saving. Say that, hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's a lot for you to anticipate in matters that you don't even know that is going to happen. And that's kind of dangerous, wouldn't it? Because Rasulullah taught us, if let's say in matters that you can't anticipate, rely back on your iman. So if that is the case, you are actually portraying and showing to the malaika who's recording, you're showing to Allah who's ever watching, your iman's that thin, that we have that brittle and fragile iman, and our inability to surrender to the decree of Allah, to whatever that Allah will destine for us in the future, that we must have our hands involved in matters of the future. He said that no, we believe that that's not right, right? So we have the long, we have talked about medium. How about the short? How about the short? Short would be an example as how Rasulullah SAW would give an example of, he would reserve the providence of what you call that, Asma or Sayyidatina Aisha. What do you call that? Aisha will be like a day or two, today and then tomorrow, something like that. Asma, will be like one day. And if she have more, sometimes she would have more than Aisha, she would give it away. Something like that. So we have two different, but similar thing, which is short term. So you talk about this kind of people, they shorten so much of their hope to a point whereby they do not take pleasure to plan beyond something that they do not understand. There are times whereby some of our students would like to, like meet us, talk to us, plan something, or city, can we plan something with you next week or next 2 weeks or next month? Our reply would be, then we'll talk about it next week. Then we'll talk about it next month. Because we can't bring ourselves to plan something that we have no power to control of. Allah give us, quote unquote, limited power confined to whatever that we have, which is immediate now. So I have long, medium, short, immediate now, like Sayyidatina Aisha and Asma. Last but not least, none at all. What about none at all? None at all would be one who would, whatever comes to him or her, will be distributed out again. And nothing will be kept. Nothing will be kept. Right. So we talk about that and we learn and we understood. A sect said, in a group of mashayikh would say that the man who is abstinent in this world yearns after the world to come, and he has set up before his eyes so that he sees the punishment. So there's a way over here too, and it's being taught over here how to do it. You set up your eyes in such a way that you look at the punishment in case you conduct yourself wrongly with whatever provision that is provided by Allah. That fear will cause a person to turn away from this dunya. Whether because the fear of punishment or because that person prioritized the reward, and the reward may not lies in much of a favor of prioritizing this world. Yeah. Right. Ala kulli hal. Ma'ashara muslimin zumratan rahimakumullah. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam was being asked, in a hadith it is written, the Prophet said to the Haritha, how do you find yourself? Or Haritha, and he said, I woke up like a true believer. I woke up like a true believer. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that everything has got a proof. وَمَا حَقِيقَةٌ إِيمَانَكَ وَمَا حَقِيقَةٌ إِيمَانِكَ. What is the haqiqah of your iman? What's the haqiqah? The Prophet asked him, كيف أصبحت يا حارث? How are you, Harith? Are you doing well? Are you doing good? And Harith replied, mu'minan haqqan. I'm a real mu'min. I'm a true believer of Prophet ﷺ. But there needs to be some valid proof that you can substantiate your words. So Haritha mentioned that I've turned my soul away from this world, thirsting by the day, watching by the night, and as though I witnessed Allah's throne coming forth, and people of the paradise are joyful receiving the good tidings of entering it, and people of hell are mourning in regret, knowing that they'll be thrown inside the hellfire. He's saying that this is my state in the morning. I wake up with this in mind. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard about it and say that, well, you are a believer whose heart has been illumined. You have come to know, so hold fast. No, that's what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Arafta falzim. You have known? Alzim. So make it istiqamah. Make it istiqamah. This is what, subhanallah, a good thing, a good advice from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What is Rasulullah trying to show? He's trying to say that, hey, however you witness, whatever mushahada that you get, whatever what do you call it, spiritual opening and witnessing that you encounter, you know, it has a direct correlation with your iman. The day that you spend before it, the action that you have conducted that allow you to inherit the eventuality of those actions. You do bad, your iman will be affected. You eat wrong, your iman will be affected. So on and so forth. To a point that if you do not make mujahada to strive to keep it consistent, it won't be there. It's like, then it is simply saying, if you have to make a deduction, if we don't make mujahada, I will not be having, Haris will not be having this, Sayyidina Haris will not be having this mushahada witnessing. Hence, the state of him being acknowledged of his iman, haqqan, mu'minan haqqan, is being questioned. Can you see? That is the reason why some of the mashayikh mentioned, if God disappears from my eye for a second, if the Prophet disappears from my eyes for a moment, I would consider myself, a non-believer. For us, the novice, when we read the kind of book, we have become very literal. And we thought that, oh, they actually witnessed the Prophet, is it? They actually can see Allah, is it? No, it is supposed to be a figurative. It is symbolic words to say that I'm doing this mujahada to maintain, to having this mulazama, this istiqamah, to a point that I can preserve my iman. Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't want to consider myself to be non-believer. I want to still consider myself to be a believer. But how? If I don't take care of the way I eat, if I don't take care of the way I speak, if I don't take care of the way I work, if I don't take care the source of my income, so on and so forth. Eventually, it will affect us. Eventually, it will affect us. And the nur, it just disappear. And the nur is from Allah. That's the reason why, a theologian and Ahlul Kalam, Ahlul Usul, mentioned abstinence is when the value of things has departed from your heart. What's the value of things has departed from the heart? There would be, what do you call that, extrinsic and intrinsic value. Extrinsic and intrinsic value. Extrinsic means the tangible, would be, for example, we're going to talk about this again, next chapter, which is gold and stone has similar value. Gold and stone has similar value. Okay, that will be extrinsic. Intrinsic, it will be the same. It will be your strive to Allah, regardless whether it's difficult or it's easy. Your test that you receive from Allah, whether it is challenging or it is light. All this kind of it, outwardly that they may be, what do you call that, different, but intrinsic wise, that value is like, hey, it's all the same to me. Regardless whether I'm going to pray with my sajada, I'm going to pray without sajada, it's the same to me. Is whether I am going to break my fast with delicious food, or I just break my fast with a glass of water, it's the same to me. Is either, I've been tested with a sickness of a mosquito bite vis-a-vis COVID or influenza A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Now, subhanallah, influenza, so there's so many alphabet to it. It is still the same to me. Because intrinsic wise, I've set my mind and I understood what it is. Extrinsic wise, I looked at it and I start to compare whether there should there be any differences in value, which I find not to be. This is an example. So the man banishes from his heart the differences, hence the desire towards it. He banishes from the heart. As how I am not favoring the stone, I will not favor also, what do you call that? The gold. No different to me. No difference. Yeah. Another Ahlul Usul, Al-Ulama Usul mentioned, and this will become the third definition. The second definition would be the value of things start to depart, worldly value start to depart, for example. And the third definition of zuhud, abstinent, is you neither blame the world nor praise it, neither rejoice in it when it comes to him, or grieve when it runs away from him. Or grieve whether it runs away from him. What do you become? You become in a state of what they call over here, the ulama mentioned, a state of sukun. What is sukun? Sukun means stillness. The state of stillness. That you are not emotionally moved like with a knee-jerk reaction. Your emotion won't be jolted up and down, depending on whatever that you are facing, especially when you are being tested by Allah with bestowal or with loss. You're not. I'm cool. But what would be a sign that you are not cool? A sign that you have not gotten that stillness, that tranquility, that bliss, that sukun. Is we are not talking about putting so much effort in the world. No, not yet. not that extent. You start to indulge yourself on unnecessary, extended overthinking. You start to think and think and think, consider and consider, fear and fear, allow anxiety to overwhelm you. That just shows that there's no stillness inside the heart. It just shows that, how, like a boat. If the boat is being pushed by small ripple of wave in the water, in the sea, it moves a little. Big wave is being thrown. It is not like the cargo ship, the oil tankers, that they are not moved, even though they are being pushed by storm and whatever in the middle of the sea. They stay where they are. They maintain their balance. They are not flung and thrown. That's how we should be. So they say that it is a sign of zuhud too. Because why? Because it has been taken out from the whatever, the influences of the world, the influences of material, taken out from his or her heart, that now it has no influence to the heart where the emotion is. No more. It can go to some extreme, even to a point whereby, you get an example. It is being stated that Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, on the day that his wife passed away, and she was being buried in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, in the morning, later on that same day, in the evening, he married another new wife. People like us will be going, especially the Malay Muslim, they'll be going, hey, the earth on the grave is still fresh, wet, and red, Tanah kubur merah lagi. You wonder why they keep using on the word red. Because it's still fresh, and now you're remarrying, that kind of thing. You know what Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal replied when he was being inquired? What made you remarry so quickly? I mean, like, yeah, okay, man, there's no iddah. Woman, it will be 4 months and 10 days when the husband passed away. Man, no iddah. But why the hurry? And he replied, because I fear death. And I wouldn't want, and I do not know when death will catch up to me. I'll be following my wife probably an hour later, a day later, tomorrow probably. And I do not want to return back to Allah, abandoning one of the biggest sunnah of the Prophet, which is in a state of being married. I don't want to come back home instead, because there's a value. He valued marriage as something that perfect the religion. So he wouldn't want to be in a state of imperfection, having imperfection in him, his religion, and return back in that state. Can you see? So and also cannot judge people too quickly. Yeah. So there will be people who, in this case, Hanbal, we could consider, we probably quite extreme, yeah, whereby wife's death, which symbolizes sadness, marriage, which symbolizes happiness. Hey, this person is not affected, ke? Is he not moved? Hasn't he got any emotion? That's because whatever comes to him, that is not his objective. It's beyond that. So Allah's the objective. And if Allah's the objective, then we are not moved. Given, not moved. Taken, not moved. That's how our teacher taught us, Al-Marhum, may Allah bless him well in Akhirah, Sheikh Abdul Maqsood. And he said that do not accept unless that you're willing to let go. Do not escalate unless you are willing to descend. Do not enter if you're not willing to exit. So it serves, subhanallah, us very well, until today, that one becomes ready and will not be overjoyed or overly sad in things that happen, that this too will pass sooner or later. It's just the world. Ala kulli hal. So this is what we are mentioning just now, that no man is completely abstinent, practice zuhud until the gold and stone are equal inside. None. Subhanallah. Unfortunately, it was being mentioned over here that stone and gold are not equal inside after the death of the messenger, except for Abu Bakr. He is no more moved. In other words, what Shaykh Abu Sa'id al-Kharas is trying to say, even the Sahaba needs to make huge mujahada, against this world, that strive, to exclude the world from their hearts. If the Sahaba, who has got the guidance of the Prophet, needs to strive so hard, what about us? Probably will be worse. And listen to how Rasulullah SAW guide us with his prophetic advice in attaining the tranquility and the sukun inside our heart, so as to practice abstinence or zuhud. Rasulullah SAW mentioned, whoever makes his worry a single worry, makes his worries a single worry, him, God will suffice all his purposes. God will suffice all his surfaces. Man ja'alal, if you can make your hammun, hamman wahida, only a single worry. The question will be, Sidi, what would be a single worry that is being mentioned over here? The single worry needs to be whether you do or not receive Allah's rida, and that everything you do would be in the pursuit of Allah's acceptance and rida. That's it. God, tomorrow I'll work if you decree me to work, and I will not complain as I go out to work, because that is what you have accepted in your decree out of me to do tomorrow. And like every morning you start to complain, reach your office, or in your case, it will be your school, and you complain. Leaving late, exiting the gate of your company or your school, you complain. You came back home safely.
Keluar lagi.
Yeah, and you're complaining too. So no, you make Allah the rida. God, I am sick now, but with this sickness, if you say that you are pleased with me by giving me this sickness, then I'm pleased with this destiny of Allah. So in other words, you make a surrender, a total objective of yours to get his acceptance and pleasure. Subhanallah. And everything that comes after that is to start to don't care. You're not too worried about it. Sayyidina Isa Ibn Maryam mentioned, verily I say to you that the love of this world is the source of every sin. And hubbud dunya ra'sul kulli khati'at. The love for this world is the source of every mistake that one can think of. Ra'sul kulli khati'ah. Everything one can think of. And what is the agent that amplify the yearning for this world? Our nafs, our desire. Curb our nafs, our desire, then our stride to get the world will be shortened. Empower our mind with that right knowledge, the correct yardstick, which is the yardstick of akhirah. We will measure this world correctly, and you will see no value in it. And we will not long for it or yearn for it. You see? So we need something to hold back that what is inside our within our heart, our nerves, and we need something to equip our brain, because the brain's function is to measure and to deduce, make a deduction. The brain won't move a person. The heart moves the person. Look at all those, avid smokers, if I can use the word. Look at those, what do you call that, stubborn drug addicts, If you ask them, their mind would say that cigarette is not good for your health. They will say drugs are not good for your health. But will they still smoke? Will they still continue take the drugs or consume the drugs? They will. It is not the mind. The mind knows what is black and white, right and wrong. It is the heart that moves them. The heart that moves them. So if you want to arrest, you want to conquer the matter, then you need to manage both. That is the nerves and your mind. Then you be the owner of this body of yours. If let's say you only control one of it, you tend to think that logical thinking will get me to safety. You forget that your nerves will then lead you astray. If you thought that I just, there are some people who say, I will just concentrate and focus on the heart. And for example, I learn tasawwuf, I get a teacher, I get into myself into spiritual path of tariqah, to what do you call it, arrest, this nerves and desire. That you're not equipped with whatever Islamic knowledge, that your mind cannot measure, and make a correct deduction. And again, you fall astray. Can you see? So you have issues, to manage it. This is a point whereby one needs to know that process. Remember last week we said we're going to talk about the degree, from to aspire, to strive, to take pleasure, and whatever not. There are names to it, for us to understand. Now, the degree of one would strive for it will be incremental. It could be a person merely desiring it, but out of that desire, the person would probably start to move, put effort and strive, act upon it, to acquire whatever the heart's desire, probably that person will attain it, and upon that attainment, a person takes pleasure. That's bad. But you know what's worse? not getting it, but yet you take pleasure in the strife. Not getting it, you take pleasure in feeding your nerves. It's like this, a person becomes so workaholic, with the desire and aspiration of getting rich, but he's never getting any closer to become a millionaire. Yet, in that strife of his or her, they take pleasure. They find it wonderful to a point that I want to continue on working. So we were out and about fetching our daughter, and we were listening to this radio, and this person, this DJ was asking, interviewing this one, what they call a guest on the show, and then asking, so do you put a time limit, when would you wish to set the age of retirement, to stop probably, not to work and whatever not? And the guest replied, no, I won't. Why should I? I mean, like, I have this way of thinking, so long that I can work, I will work. We shouldn't limit ourselves. We were driving and we were thinking, if only those words, we personally, I'm not talking about that guest, we're talking about this fakir, if only we can use those words and say it for our ibadah. If I can do my ibadah, I will not stop doing it. If I can stand and pray, I will not sit and pray. If I can fast, I will continue on fasting and I will not stop fasting. If I can do my mujahadah, I will continue to do my mujahadah and I will not give up to my nafs. Give in to my nafs. You see? But there will be people who are worse, whereby it's not that they take pleasure of the world, they take pleasure in the process of getting it, and they've not gotten any. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Okay, that's the third. And then there's the fourth. You desire it, you act on it, you take pleasure upon getting it. Unfortunately, upon receiving it, you conduct misdeed with whatever you have received. Na'udhu billahi min dhalik. You conduct misdeed, no. You have been working so hard to get this world called salary, income, whatever you call wealth, whatever you want to say it, you can say it. You amassed it so much only to get it at the end of the month, and the only thing that you can think of is to forget Allah, to be heedless, to be wasteful, to throw away your money and whatever not. And we can't even set a little bit of time to sit down, probably like 5 minutes, to think, hey, I will practice a little bit of abasement. I will practice a little bit of abstinence. I will practice a little bit of wara. So let's do some righteousness. How much would I want to give away this month for sadaqah? How much I want to give away for hadiyah? How much I want to give away? We do not have that. We don't have that thinking. We don't spare a thought for that, but we spare a thought for something that's not right. Ala kulli hal. The person who only desire will be his work, but he did not take any action. He has long hope for it. He is named as Raghibun ila dunya, the one who is lustful towards the world. We translate it into English. A person who is lustful towards dunya. Is he acting upon it? No. It's just his lust, inclination, his desire. He's acting on it? No, he's not acting. But the person who desire and then he act upon it, he is called a sa'iyun. A sa'iyun. What is a sa'iyun? Sa'iyun is a worker. Worker is fine to act upon it. No. It's bad, because you really love it and you strive for it, not because you need it, because you yearn for it. Sometimes, it'd be worse if, let's say, you become a slave of it. You become an abd, and you become a slave of this world. You become a slave of some people. Some parents become slave of their children. They work hard so that they can throw the money into their children. Some people, they become slave of the system. They work hard just to throw money back to the system. Some people, they just love the work so much to a point whereby whatever they rake in, they throw it back to the work. These are the businessmen and the businesswomen usually. And they always anticipate for bigger wealth and more returns. whatever they get, they throw it. Whatever they get, they throw it. You become a slave of such things. But sometimes things can become good too from different perspective. You know, you may get something, you strive towards it, you strive the right way. Yeah, probably, it started off with that desirous, emotion of yours towards this world, and then you strive towards it, but you are mindful towards it. You're mindful towards it. And you accompany that action with things that the religion acknowledges. Give you an example. You just want to be a millionaire. That's why you work. You really love money, and there's no doubt about it. So off you go to your work, but you ensure that you would gotten yourself a halal job. You step out of the house, you make a dua. Bismillah, Bismillah amanna billah wa i'tasamna billah tawakkalna ala Allah wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Example, you make a dua. You enter your car, you recite a dua. Subhanalladhi sakhar lana. Bismillahi majariha wa musaha. You make a dua. You go to the office, you work and you do not cheat and you do not lie, snaking around, if there's such a word, because it's from Malay mengula, you don't do that. So we hope, even though it started off with not so good desire, but at the end of the day, you still become an abid. You become an abid. You become a good worshipper. You become a good worshipper. Yeah, so long that you don't become a slave or worship that world. Sometimes Allah can give guidance at the start. Sometimes Allah can give guidance in the middle. Right? Fine. There will be people who are desirous, act upon it, and they get it. They act upon it, and then they get it. What happened when they get it? They become harisun. Anyone who receives the world will have this urge to keep it. That's the reason why the religion teaches us, you want more, you have to give it away. That's the way of our religion. You want the spiritual blessing of it, you have to give it away. You have to share. You have to offer. You cannot hoard. So there will be people, who then take pleasure in whatever that they have it, and they take pleasure in keeping. They take pleasure in keeping, or they take pleasure in just the thing itself, and which is wrong. And these people are called harisun, or the khati'un, because wrongdoer, to a point whereby they are taking pleasure in things that Allah mentioned. These are ornaments of life, zinatil haya. These are tafakhur. These are matters that cause you to be having pride and boastful. Yet you're taking pleasure. That's why it is mentioned. Once you take pleasure, as what Sayyidina Isa mentioned, hubbud dunya ra'sul kulli khati'ah. It becomes the source of all problem. Okay? And last but not least, you use it for some misdeed, then you become dull. Dullun. What's dull? Astray from the right path. Astray from the right path. And it is so scary. So Siri, if it is such would be the situation of a person, then I think it's best that we take care of ourselves. But to what extent, Siri? Let's be realistic. We're in Singapore. In Singapore, even to breathe the air in Singapore, you need to pay. Either you pay the air, from your house, you pay the air at the car park, or you pay lah. Somehow you have to pay. Yes. The country over here do not acknowledge you to stay shaking your leg and do nothing, and just to be at the receiving end. They say that everybody needs to contribute, something like that. Contribute to whom you do not know, but just everybody needs to contribute. Yeah. So nobody should be only beneficiary. You must be together. So we say that we understand, but the issue over here is that we are not talking about necessities. We are talking things beyond necessity. This is what we have to take care of ourselves. If it is necessity, Give you an example. CD, I'm having I'm diabetic. CD, I am diabetic. No, we are not, alhamdulillah. May Allah save us from such a test. A person comes and say that, CD, I'm diabetic, I need to eat a kind of rice, basmati, for example, low in whatever GLO, if I'm mistaken, we don't know lah. We know what's delicious and not delicious. Beyond that, we do not know. So that we need to consume such rice, but those kind of rice will be expensive. We said that's necessity for you. Say we are so healthy, but we just cannot eat AAA Phoenix rice, pineapple rice, whatever kind of rice. I need basmati rice. If not, I just cannot swallow. He said, that's not necessity for you. It's not necessity. Okay, you see? So we need to understand where to position ourselves in accordance to our context. Yeah? Khair inshallah. Taib. There are people who actually conduct zuhud, abstinence, in order to lighten their bags and safely pass over the bridge, over hell, when the heavy burden are held back for questioning. This is the one. Why CD that they talk about this bridge, the sirat? We are talking about the sirat. Right after you have your, what you call that, hisab, you'll be passing through the sirat. At the end of that sirat will be that Jannah. So how will you pass? In the kitab by Ibn Ajiba, Tafsir Al-Fatihatul Kabir, very thick. Alhamdulillah, Allah give us opportunity to read with our late teacher, this kitab tafsir by Ibn Ajiba, and it's just about tafsir of Surah Al-Fatiha, and it's so thick, few hundred pages book. Say like la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. 7 verses of Surah Al-Fatiha, and then the ulama start to explain from all points and perspective. Ibn Ajiba, bring about the opinion of some of the ulama and say that, when you cross the sirat, the bridge, there is an opinion whereby you'll be serving the consequences of your action. So you will take one step, and that step will be for you to account for the deeds of your eye. Not good, you'll fall down. You serve whatever sentence that you need to serve in hellfire, and then they will return after a certain time. They will return you back to the sirat. They will return you back to the sirat, and then you take the next step. And the next step probably will be the nose. You are smelling what you're not supposed to smell. The beautiful scent, the wonderful scent of your female colleague that is sitting beside you. You just take pleasure in that scent. When you never praise even your wife spraying 1001 perfume bottle at home, and yet you're praising this non-mahram of yours colleague, beside you, and that is wrong. Or us probably spraying with all the perfume that we want, that we have, because we want to attract the attention of the male colleague that we have at home. And right now, advertisements are doing that. You spray, you pass by, and then the opposite sex starts to turn their head. What smell is that? We do not know who's the shaitan. Is the shaitan the one spraying the perfume, or the shaitan is the one who produced that perfume? So we say that's the second one. You fall, but then once you have served your sentence, you go up again. Then you turn the next. So can you imagine every step that you need to go through? When are you going to reach the end? Will you reach the end? Inshallah, eventually, if you are destined for Jannah, you just need to cleanse yourself, because of the rust that is accumulated from our sins. We need to wash it away with the fire, the flame of hell. But okay, fine, but when will that be? It is mentioned that the sirat will be far. It will be so thin. It will be sharper, thinner than a blade cut into 7 pieces. So how thin that? Not blade. Hair being cut into 7. What do you call that? Pieces. It's like, that's bad. So as we mentioned over here, some people know what they do. Look, if this world is the cause of me to be accounted as such, and the reason for me to be sentenced to hellfire, to be thrown into such torment, I shall lighten my burden, lessen my accountability. So what would I do? I would try my best not to get involved with things that is unnecessary, such as my load will be heavy, such that my accountability will be extended, and I will be open to the risk of slip and fall into the hellfire. That's scary. And nobody wants to do that. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned, say that the feet of the son of Adam on the day of accountability, Yawmul Hisab, will not move until he's being questioned. He being asked 4 or 5 questions. We can't remember the actual hadith. May Allah forgive us for this forgetfulness. And all the questions are like singular question, except for wealth. You'll be from 2 forms. Wealth of this world. How you get it means as in where from, how, the way of you getting it. 2, where you spend it. How you get it, where you spent it. Every other thing, you will be asked one question with respect to it, but the wealth, be asked twice, 2 questions out of it. Only to show that how important for us to understand the perspective of this world as a true and righteous Muslim. Because there will be call of people in saying that, no, as a Muslim, we need to amass. As a Muslim, we need to control the economy. The religion does not stop us from being rich. The religion is not stopping us from getting the world. The world is mazra'atul akhirah, is a place of plowing and a plantation, a place to work, and for you to harvest in the akhirah. So the richer you are, the more powerful you are, you can do many things for your akhirah. We say that all things that you have said are correct. They are all correct. But who can safely say that you won't be account for it in the akhirah? Who can safely say that I will conduct good deeds with it? Who can safely say that I will not risk my akhirah upon getting and attaining this world? Who can give that guarantee? We can't even give that guarantee to our own self. Yet we aspire many, many things. That's the reason why there's a Malay saying, Malay proverbs, that say that ukur baju badan sendiri. So we have to measure it, vis-a-vis our own self. Our knowledge so shallow, our iman so brittle, and the seriousness, our religiosity is not there, and yet we are still aspiring for the world, and we are heedless towards akhirah. That's a danger for us. Rasulullah also mentioned, those who are greater will be less on the day of resurrection, and those who are less will be greater. In other words, if you are rich, you are poor later in akhirah. But if you are poor, inshallah, you'll be rich in akhirah. If you're weak, you'll be strong in akhirah. But if you are strong and you do misdeed, you're going to be weak in akhirah. It is the opposite. Some of the ulama mentioned similarly to the jinn. In this world, we can be seen, jinn cannot be seen. In akhirah, jinn can be seen, we cannot be seen. We are invisible in akhirah. So maybe in akhirah, maybe in Yawm al-Qiyamah, we should call ourselves all jinn lah. Ala kulli hal. Let's continue. The Prophet also mentioned, no man is there, be he rich or poor, who will not wish on the day of resurrection that God made his sustenance in this world only his daily bread. Oh, subhanallah. Only his daily bread. So fearful of what's going to become of him to whatever he received. One day, Salman al-Farisi was sitting outside his house, a small hut. If you enter, that will be the bedroom, that will be the kitchen, that will be the living room, everything's just there. And he was crying. He was crying. So they went to Salman. At the point of the Tabi'een went over to Salman al-Farisi and they asked him, "Yeah, Salman, why are you crying? Is there anything we can do? Is there any calamity fallen upon you?" He said, "No, I'm just thinking of akhirah. I'm just thinking how I'm going to answer to the wealth that I am bestowed. The worldly wealth that Allah has given to me." And they say, and the Tabi'in was surprised. So they thought that he was really rich enough. So they peeped inside in the room. And the room was nothing except a bowl, except what do you call that? A place where he kept his water, and a place where, and that's another thing that we can't remember. There's only three things over there. And Salman al-Farisi was crying over this. And he's just worried, about the accountability. Now let's look at the number of scarf. We call it the headgear, called the jilbab or the hijab or whatever not. How many do we have inside our wardrobe? How about our attire? How about our shoes? And so on and so forth. Do we really need all? If we need all, that's fine. See, I got no choice. We have winter, we have autumn, we have summer. Don't tell me I need to wear coat in summer. Oh, you're killing me. Oh, don't tell me I'm just wearing my t-shirt in winter. That's crazy. Okay lah, fine enough lah. But you are on a hot weather like today, highest to be 34, 35 degrees, and cold only to happen, just before subuh probably, and it will only dip until 25 only at most. So it's being mentioned in a weather prediction. So to what extent do we need so many range of clothes? Is there anything wrong to have that? That's not the issue of whether it is halal or haram. It is the issue of, are we ready to face the accountability? That's it. That's only it. Are we ready to face accountability? When we go to market, we splurge. It's never enough to buy 500 grams of potato. We need to buy a kilo or 2 kilo. It's never enough to buy a kind or two, type of fishes, or seafood. No, I need to have as many. So long that the freezer, so long that the chiller is not filled up, you will not be happy. I'm not talking about halal haram. There's no halal haram here. We're talking about, are we ready to face the accountability? Because those are desire put into action, and we seem to take pleasure in whatever that we do or whatever that we attain. We eventually become heedless. Can you see? So we need to take note. And it's so scary to think about it, because we would just be wasting reward. We will just be wasting reward. That at the end of the day, we are not ready, to a point whereby Allah has placed us in this world to strive and to accumulate reward, thawab. But because our heedlessness, even if we don't fall into the abyss of dhanb, sinfulness, but yet we send our poor weak self to so much trouble in answering question of Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith, he said, whoever is being questioned by Allah will surely fail. In other words, anyone who's been taken into account will not succeed. That is how dangerous it is. Knowing this, there are people like Abu Darda, there are people like Umar Abdul Aziz, and there are other people who amongst the companion, that they manifest this fear, this worry, this anxiety about akhirah, outwardly. And we talk about accountability, Sayyidina Uthman ibn Affan, Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajha, the moment they listen to azan, their skin will turn pale. They will start to shiver. They will be afraid. We don't know because we can't even hear azan here. But the point is, They start to think of the accountability, you know. So actually the azan have some effect onto the ruh. One day Umar Abdul Aziz saw a youth was very pale. So Umar Abdul Aziz asked, boy, why are you pale? What happened to you? The youth replied, from sicknesses and distemper, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin. You know, he gave such a very vague answer. You know, so Sayyidina Umar Abdul Aziz mentioned, tell me truly, what's happening? You know, and then the youth replied again, sicknesses and distempers. Oh, they said like, then Umar said, oh, this person is telling the truth. So I should not be urging him to repeat again the answer, but I will need to know more what he's intending to say. He said, tell me how. Explain to me, what are you saying? The youth replied, youth, a young chap answering to a Khalifa, akin to the king, you know, at a point of time. What he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, I've turned away my soul from this world, and its stone and its gold have been equal in my sight. You know, and it is as if I behold the people of paradise, you know, in paradise, and I saw them visiting each other, and I see how the people of hellfire, you know, in hellfire, mourning together. It's exactly the same answer like Zaid bin like Haritha. Let's say Haritha, you know, and Rasulullah, Umar Abdul Aziz said that, how does this come? Like, how did you attain this kind of witnessing? You know, how did you manage at this age, able to bring this into realization, manifestation inside your heart? And the youth replied, fear of Allah, and He will pour forth knowledge copiously on you. So in other words, is that if you fear Allah, there will be a flood of knowledge into your heart. There will be a flood of knowledge. This is what the ulama of tasawwuf call it as fuyudah or faydah, means flood. So faydah, fuyudat al-nur, fuyudat al-ilm, fuyudat al-fuhum, al-fahm, you know, the understanding, the knowledge, the light, it will just flood into your heart. And once it captures your heart and the heart becomes full of it, you understand the reality of things, you succumb to it. It's like when you take your takbir and when you say Allahu Akbar, Allah the greatest, when we have attained that light, that nur, when our heart is flooded, you know, with that knowledge, you know, when our heart is flooded with what you call that, with that understanding, we succumb to it. We knew this person who went through that experience, that he couldn't even take a takbir. He continued to Allahu Akbar, Allah. He couldn't finish the takbiratul ihram. You know, to a point that, you know, he was profusely crying, you know, and he dropped on to his knees, you know, not being able even to recite takbiratul ihram because of the fear of Allahu Akbar. We don't even verbalize our takbiratul ihram when it is rukun qawli. We just go, just that. And it is rukun qawli. It's obligatory. And in Madhab al-Shafi'i, you need to verbalize it. At least you could hear that whispers to your own self. Allahu Akbar. Yeah, you don't have to shout Allahu Akbar. You know, like you are breathing your last breath before you die. No, not that. You know what? It's Allahu Akbar. We can't even do that physical thing. How would we expect to receive that flood inside our heart? Flood. You know that flood? The moment that you reach Masjid al-Haram, that you are anticipating your eyesight to fall onto the Kaaba, and you are turning your head left and right, you know, maneuvering around the huge crowd in front of you. moment one of your eyes caught the sight of that Kaaba, the flood gushes in and you start to cry for no reason that you thought. It could be that you're having your children beside you and they say, Mommy, why are you crying? Daddy, why are you crying? You can't even explain. But because the copious to explain that it fills up Fuyuldah, the Fayuldah just rush in. And it is an experience to behold. It's the similar experience of a person visiting the maqam of the Prophet ﷺ when the Prophet has passed away 1,400 years ago, and you are not standing in front of his maqam yet, but the sight of that green dome in front of you as you walk and you approach it, cause your knee to weaken and shiver and weak. You fall to your knees looking at it, longing for the Prophet as though he's your bosom friend that you have long lost friend. You've not known him. We have not met him. Yet, what is this feeling that is inside our heart? Is that it's exactly the same thing. And that young chap continued. Verily, when we were shortened of the knowledge of what we practiced, we gave up practicing even that which we knew. So this is what he's trying to say. Look, Khalifa, to whatever that you know, you practice. To whatever that you practice, it will slowly bring about the realization. And that fear will be begotten from that realization. And that fear begets a new set of nur, new set of knowledge, a new set of understanding. But you need to practice what you know. But unfortunately, if we look at our context, most of us are feel-good Muslim. We are just happy because we attend classes. We are just happy because we enroll into some, especially online classes, that we don't have to strive physically because we are ever busy with this world. And sometimes we are so fearful that those are merely excuses, But putting that aside, we don't even practice whatever that we know. We don't even put it into practice. We don't manifest it into action. How are we going to inherit another new set of knowledge, another new set of nur? We are already shortened of knowledge in the first place. But if we had practiced in accordance with what knowledge we had, we would have inherited a knowledge which our bodies could not have supported. So they're like, so that's what's happening to me right now, Khalifa. That's what's happening to me, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin. I'm inheriting it. I'm experiencing it. A knowledge that is not written, in its written form, documented form, but a knowledge that Allah sow into my heart, that Allah plunge it deep into my, existential being, to a point that this knowledge no more only serves the mind, it serves the heart, it serves the body, and the body just couldn't hold it, withstand it. Huge amount of pressure. What do we call that? We call that ni'mah. We call that ni'mah. And the Sahaba realized this, and they put this into action. That's how, some of them, try to do it. There's a what do you call that? A narration whereby Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was being seen by Abu Bakr Siddiq, and he himself did the same thing. What was that? A vessel was being brought to him, but he put his mouth onto it, tasted it, pushed it aside, and began to cry. He began to cry, just like the youth who became pale. The Sahaba has been trained, and the tarbiyah, the guidance, the mentorship of the Prophet ﷺ, subhanAllah, of course, the best. So the companions would have gone through the same thing. So he was being asked, I don't understand. You drank, you threw it away, you cried. What's the meaning of all this thing? Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq mentioned that, I saw this thing one day happen to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He put his hand onto something and then he pushed it away, you know, uh, and I said to him, Ya Rasulullah, why do you push it with your hand? As though like you're getting something, but I don't see anything, like something like that. Rasulullah sallallahu mentioned that this present world appeared before me in all its beauty and splendor, and I said, get away from me. But it answered, you will not escape from me, nor will any escape from me that comes after you. Pause. If the Prophet couldn't escape it, if the companions couldn't escape it, what do you think our chances would be like? And Rasulullah continued, is saying, so I fear it has overtaken me. Similarly, Abu Bakr, nice, delicious, probably cold, sweet water, drank it, tasted it, pushed it aside, cried. We still have not reached his level, because probably he was thinking at that moment, I've already become heedless and fallen in love with that delicious water, with that cold and sweet water. It's so scary. That's the reason why some of the Sahaba manifested into the action. Some of them, they will not take any pleasure. They will not take delight in stuff. They try to practice zuhud as much as they can. While the wealth is thrown at their feet, while the world, has been conquered, yet they continue to be afraid, even though they need not strive so hard for it, that it's just being presented to Allah to them. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So, ma'ashar muslimin zumrat al-mu'min rahimakumullah. So, truthfulness in abstinence, truthfulness in zuhud, if you are to summarize in a simple words, is to take it out from your heart, whatever the world, whatever it means to us, take it out from the heart to a point that we are not desirous or yearn towards it. Place it in our palm as such that we do not waste and misuse it, because wasteful is also wrong. It's also considered to be a misdeed. While at the same time practice whatever we are expected out of us as a Muslim, and not be misguided with this world, in hope that we will inherit the realities, the haqiqah, realities of matter, and be honored by Allah with the nur, with that knowledge, with that understanding, that we are able to witness the beautiful akhirah and salvage ourselves and liberate ourselves from the challenges and difficulties of accountability in akhirah. So that will be in a nutshell of being zuhud. And it automatically dispels the idea of being zuhud means we have to be wearing torn attire, clothes, like the malamatiya, we have to be smelly, it's not good to be well-scented, nicely scented, it's not good to be presentable. No, you have understood now between what is needs, necessity, and what we long for, that we need to shorten it. Allahu a'lam wa ahakam. Alhamdulillah, that will be the end of this chapter, and the chapter on zuhud, inshallah. Today will be class number 7, inshallah. Next week will be class number 8, and next week we'll be going through the chapter that talks about as-sidq fit tawakkul, truthfulness in tawakkul, and it comes together with zuhud. You cannot do zuhud without tawakkul, trusting or reliance upon Allah. There's no zuhud without tawakkul, and there's no tawakkul if it is not being manifested into action, what we call zuhud. to the extent of the action. We're gonna talk about that. And these represent this next chapter will be chapter 9. The truthfulness in trusting will be the last of long chapters. Again, this will be like probably 8, 9, 10 pages. And right after that, inshallah, the following week will be all short chapters. And inshallah, we look forward that may Allah bestow us the ability to end it by the 10th or 12th session, inshallah. We hope it's been beneficial session that we had tonight. Let's end our class tonight with Surah Al-Fatiha, with Surah Al-Asr and Tasbih Kafara. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان في خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك قل قولي هذا وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء منهم الأموات ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا باطلا باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم افتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا واستر لنا عيوبنا واشف لنا كروبنا وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد النبي الأمي الحبيب العالي القدر عظيم الجاه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. شكرا على حضوركم وحسن استماعكم. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you for the contribution of the class fee. We see you again inshallah next week. بالعافية. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
محمد النبي الأمي